Kwong Yue Yang, less and more. Less and more, Kwong Yue Yang.
It's wintertime, 2001. I'm 21 years old and I'm sitting on a Boeing 747 that's about to land into Beijing International Airport. I look out the window and all I see are dead trees, black cars, and pollution so thick I can actually look and stare at the sun. I think to myself, we're not in Kansas anymore, Kwong-o. You see, I was about to embark on a one-year study abroad program in China to learn Chinese. My parents had told me, don't go. They were afraid I wouldn't survive, and they were afraid I'd get brainwashed. But they did eventually come to flow, and I did convince them, and they just said to me, make sure you party less and study more. Now, the whole journey started 12 hours earlier. 12 hours earlier, I was in Sydney, Australia, and I was saying goodbye to my mum and dad, and they were afraid I'd get hungry on the flight. So they gave me a cup of instant noodles and a fortune cookie. And as I walked down the aisle of that Boeing 747, I remember thinking the one thing that all young 21-year-old men think. I hope that the person sitting next to me is hot, young, and single. And I get to my seat, I look down, she isn't hot, she isn't young, so I don't really care if she isn't single. Sitting next to me is this middle-aged Chinese lady with some grey hair around her eyes. And she's old enough to be my mother. And so I let out this big sigh, and I tell myself, maybe she has a daughter. The flight takes off. We're in the air. I look across and I notice that she's struggling with the in-flight entertainment. And instead of asking the flight attendant for help, she actually turns to me and she asks me in Chinese. And I quickly work out that she doesn't speak any English. Now, this is a huge problem for me for two reasons. See, one, I didn't speak that much Chinese. That's why I was going to China to study. And two, I felt it was like people like her who made people like me look bad. You see, I'm an Australian-born Chinese. I was born in Australia, I grew up in Australia. I say, "G'day, mate." I play cricket, and I've even had a kangaroo for dinner. But she, on the other hand, she didn't speak English, she probably spoke really loud, and she probably didn't know how to line up. And it was people like her moving to Australia, and it's because of her that people would come up to me and tell me that I should go back to my own country. And so I was sitting there, and I was wondering, do I help her or not? And every now and then, the flight attendant would come by, and the flight attendant would look at the middle-aged Chinese lady and ask, would you like chicken or beef? And the middle-aged Chinese lady would look at me, the flight attendant would look at me, and the flight attendant asked, would your mother like chicken or beef? I try to explain to her, she's not my mother, maybe a future mother-in-law, I don't know. But for the rest of that trip, 12 hours, I become her personal translator. And the only thing I want to do is talk less and sleep more. Finally, our plane arrives into Beijing. I get off the flight, I give the middle-aged Chinese lady this really awkward smile goodbye. I go through customs, I pick up my bags, and I step out of the terminal. And I am in trouble. Because I am 21 years old and I do not plan very well. I cannot read the characters, I cannot read the signs, and I don't know how to get from the airport to my university. I go up to a gentleman who looks like a security guard and I ask him for help, and he says to me, which pretty much means go away. I go up to another gentleman and I ask him for directions, and he goes, "That way." And I stand there and I look around and I realize I'm in a totally different world. I don't speak Chinese, I don't read Chinese. I am lost and I'm alone. And I think, what would my parents say to me right now? I told you so. I turn around and it's a middle-aged Chinese lady. She comes up, she says, "Where are you going?" And I show her an address on a piece of paper. She throws me into a taxi, she jumps into the taxi with me, and for the next hour and a half we go towards my university. As I'm sitting in the cab, I can't help but feel her motherly love, and I can't help but think, maybe I should have judged her less and helped her more. And as we finally arrive at my university, which is located by Mount Lectern, I step into my college, I look at the little middle-aged Chinese lady, she gives me this big warm smile and a big wave goodbye, and I give her a big warm smile too. The truth is that day, I never actually found out what her name was. I never even found out if she lived in the same direction as my university, and I never found out if she had a daughter. But the one thing I did find out that day, that every day in every country, there is someone trying to start a brand new life. And it doesn't matter if they don't understand the language, they may not understand the culture, and they may feel lost and alone, like I did. But if I ever meet somebody like that, it doesn't matter where they're from, the color of their skin, how old or young they are, male or female, I now know if I see them ever again that I should, and we should, judge them less and help them more. And if you're judging me right now for only using that core phrase once, remember, judge less, help more.